Hello, hello, hello. I promised I would do book club. And here we are, we're finally starting it. Which, if you guys want to read along, I have it set up so you guys can see the book on screen. Um, there is some pictures and stuff like that. My keyboard's down here, so if you see me like reaching down here, that is because my keyboard is right here in my lap. Um, I'm trying to put some music on for y'all so it's not just super quiet. Unless you guys would prefer it being quiet. Just something kind of quiet. Nothing crazy. So I have 3 books that we're gonna read either today or whenever we do this next. I need to figure out a schedule so we can have like a set time to do this each week. I know, I read this when I was a kid. I went to the library today and I found these books and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to get some. So we have this one. If we have enough time after we finish this one, I also have this one, which I felt was very fitting. I'm more excited for this one personally, but I think this one's gonna be cool too. And then I tried to look for Warrior Cats. I tried to look for Wings of Fire. I tried to look for book series that people wanted me to read. There was no first books of any of the series, so we can't start those series until I'm able to get a hold of one of the starting books. However, I do have the first book of Brave Lands, which is by the same person who made Warrior Cats, so we will read this at some point, but this book is a lot bigger, so we might have to dedicate a stream to this one by itself. Oh! I dropped stuff on the floor. So we're going to start with the smaller books. That's what we're going to start with. I'm going to have to read these a little bit weird because for me, it's like sideways. This is forward for me. I'm going to have to read the book like diagonal. So this will be interesting. You know Harry Potter? I have heard of Harry Potter. I've never read it or anything though, but I've seen one of the movies. Okay. I think the best way to do this is just to get started. I read a little bit of this one in the car because we were stuck earlier. Sorry if it's a little blurry. I'm trying my best here to make it not blurry. So, here's all the chapters. Okay. I guess I'll read the book like this, so that way I can, see it a little better. Okay. One summer day in Frog Creek, Pennsylvania, a mysterious treehouse appeared in the woods. It was filled with books. A boy named Jack and his sister Annie found the treehouse and soon discovered that it was magic. They could go to any time and place in history just by pointing to a picture in one of the books. While they were gone, no time at all passed back in Frog Creek. Jack and Annie eventually found out that the treehouse belonged to Morgan Le Fay, a magical librarian from the legendary realm of Camelot. Can you do funny voices for the characters? I don't know, should we do funny voices for the characters? We can do voices. This same fly photobombs every one of my streams. Well, yeah, I'm still gonna make it clear. Who should we give a funny voice? I'll give one of them a normal voice, and I'll give the other one a funny voice. Should we give Jack or Annie a funny voice? Give Annie a funny voice. Okay. A lot of people are saying Annie. Since then, they have traveled on many adventures in the Magic Treehouse and completed many missions for Morgan. On their most recent adventures, Jack and Annie traveled to South Africa and met rangers who protect endangered rhinos. Next, they went to an island in the Pacific Ocean to help the military rescue giant tortoises. Now they're about to meet more heroes who are working to save another endangered species. More people voted for Annie. Annie gets a funny voice. Okay. Trying to make this where you guys can see it. Oh, this hurts my hand though. I wish we hold it like this. It was almost noon. A gentle summer wind blew the leaves on the trees. Jack parked his bike in the backyard. He'd just ridden home from the library. Okay, what kind of voice should I give her? Annie is his sister. Annie is his sister. Yeah, there was that same fly that's been tormenting me. Manly man voice. I can't do a manly man voice. I can make her really southern. Or high-pitched. I don't know, guys. We gotta pick. We gotta pick together. What should we give? What kind of voice should we give her? I'm not doing a British accent. I don't want to offend some... Brother. Get away. Okay, multiple people are like southern. Well, the thing is, it's easy for me to do a southern accent, like a really bad southern accent, because I am southern. Southern? Okay. Did you find the books you wanted? Annie called from the kitchen window. Yep, I found 2 about giant tortoises, said Jack. He wanted to learn more about the tortoise he'd recently saved from a volcanic eruption. Soon you'll be a real turtle expert, said Annie. That'll take a while, said Jack. He came through the back door into the kitchen. He pulled off his backpack. What have you been doing? Waiting for Mom, said Annie. She said she'll be back in about 30 minutes. Then we can all go hike to the lake. Great, said Jack. She left a sandwich for you, said Annie, pointing to the table. Yum, said Jack. He picked up his peanut butter sandwich and took a big bite. A high whistling sound came from the backyard. What's that? Said Annie. She turned back to the window. Oh, wow! What is it? Jack said, his mouth full. You're not gonna believe it, said Annie. Holding his sandwich, Jack joined Annie at the window. There, Annie whispered. A huge dark brown bird was perched on a tree. On a tree stump in their backyard. The bird was almost 3 feet tall. It had gold feathers on its head and neck. Oh man, whispered Jack. It's a golden... Wait. It's a golden eagle, said Annie. The largest hunting bird in North America. The eagle watched them with piercing eyes. Why is it here? Asked Jack. Yes, said Annie with a smile. Jack put down his sandwich. The tree house, he said. Come on, let's go. Jack and Annie slipped out the back door. The golden eagle lifted off the stump. It glided away on the wind. Grab your bike, said Jack. Okay, I had to put the book down because this is hurting my hand. You guys might not be able to read it very well. I want you guys to at least see the pictures. He and Annie both jumped onto their bikes. They rode down the driveway and pedaled up the street. Jack and Annie parked at the edge of the Frog Creek woods. They took off running between the wind-blown trees. Soon they came to the tallest oak. The eagle was circling above it. The magic treehouse was back. Thanks, Annie called to the bird. The eagle glided away. Jack started up the rope ladder and Annie followed. They climbed into the treehouse. The midday sunlight shone on a piece of paper lying on the wooden floor. Annie picked up the paper. From Morgan, she said, out of breath. She read... I'm not reading this in her voice. Journey to Mongolia. Be eco-volunteers. See golden eagles, marmots, and herds of red deer. The wind on the plain spins wheels along. Call out to the night, spin air into song. Use your own words, just do your best. Sing of wild things, let the wind do the rest. I'm not sure I understand this, said Jack. I have lots of questions. Yeah, really, said Annie. Like, where's Mongolia? On the other side of the world, said Jack. It's a country between China and Russia. I picture lots of rugged open land. That sounds good, said Annie. And what's an eco-volunteer? Well, eco comes from the word ecology, said Jack. I studied ecology in our class. It's all about how everything in nature is connected and works together. You mean like plants, trees, animals, and insects are all connected, right? Said Annie. Yeah, and if you take away one thing, you can mess up everything else, said Jack. So eco-volunteers in Mongolia would be people who try to help the ecology there. Cool, let's go, said Annie. Wait, I have another question, said Jack. What's a marmot? Oh, I love marmots, said Annie. They're like groundhogs, but not as chubby. Jack laughed. So, are we done with our questions? Wait. So, are we done with our questions? Said Annie. Can we go now? Hold on, said Jack. Do we have a book about Mongolia? He looked around the treehouse. He only saw the Pennsylvania book that always brought them back home. I guess Morgan didn't give us a guidebook. Don't worry, said Annie. We'll figure everything out somehow. I hope so, said Jack. Okay, so I'll point to the word Mongolia in our rhyme and make the wish. Ready? Ready for anything, said Annie. Jack pointed to their rhyme. I wish we could go there, he said, to Mongolia. The wind started to blow, the treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster, then everything was still. Absolutely still. Okay, we're on to part 2, Eco-Volunteers. Horns honked. Motorcycle engines roared. Jack and Annie looked out the window. The treehouse had landed in a city park. Skyscrapers towered above the trees. Buses, cars, and motorcycles moved down a busy avenue. Not exactly what I expected, said Jack. Yeah, where are the marmots and the red deer? Said Annie. The rugged open land. Right, said Jack. And if we're visiting a big city, why are we dressed for the outdoors? He and Annie were both wearing hiking shoes, cargo pants, and field vests over fleece jackets. Good question, said Annie. Jack checked their rhyme. Be eco-volunteers, he read aloud. Maybe we're supposed to feed the birds in this park, said Annie, or weed the gardens. No, I don't think so, said Jack. That's not much of a mission. Let's go look around. He tucked Morgan's rhyme into a pocket of his field vest. Then he and Annie climbed down the rope ladder. The wind was blowing as they stepped across the grass, and they followed a short path to the busy avenue. Hey, look, that's us, said Annie. What? Where? Said Jack. There, eco-volunteers, said Annie. She pointed to a minibus parked at the corner of the park. On the side, it said Mongolia Tours Eco-Volunteers. That is us, said Jack. Come on. He and Annie hurried to the minibus. They stood in line behind two couples with backpacks. A girl with a clipboard was checking names off a list. She looked to be about 11 or 12. She had a black braid and wore a long red coat with a sash. Okay, 1 bag for each couple, she said. She gave the couples tote bags that said Eco-Volunteers. Welcome aboard. After the 4 volunteers had climbed into the bus, the girl turned to Jack and Annie. Hello, I'm Tuya, she said. Tuya had bright eyes and a big smile. Hi, we're Jack and Annie, said Annie. Tuya looked at their list. I don't see your names. Who are you traveling with? No one. Just ourselves, said Jack. But we're definitely supposed to be on this tour. Tuya frowned. I'm afraid the tour company made a mistake, she said. All children must be with a grown-up. Oh, don't worry, said Annie. Jack and I have been eco-volunteers all around the world, all by ourselves. Tuya looked doubtful. Honestly, Annie said, we've helped rangers in South Africa save endangered rhinos. We helped rescue an endangered tortoise. Oh, I lost my spot. From a volcano in the Pacific Ocean, said Jack. Tia tilted her head and grinned. You two have great imaginations, she said. We do, but we're actually giving you facts, said Annie. All aboard, time to go, the bus driver called. Trust us, said Jack. In Greenland, we saved a narwhal, and we rescued a baby llama in Peru. No, you didn't, said Tia, giggling. Yes, we did, said Annie. And a snow leopard in Nepal. Honest. Okay, I believe you, I do, Tia said with a laugh. Quick, get on the bus. Don't speak to the driver, though. I'll explain to him later. Sit in the back. Here, share this. She handed Annie a tote bag. Thanks, Jack and Annie said together, and they followed Tia to onto the minibus. Tia sat behind the driver. Jack and Annie slipped quietly to the back. They sat in the last seat. We made it, said Annie, sighing. At least for now, said Jack, and he looked inside their tote bag. Cool stuff, she said. 2 pairs of binoculars, t-shirts that, she said, say eco-volunteers, a brochure. Hey, can I see that, said Jack. Annie handed him the brochure. He read out loud. Nature Reserve Adventure, June 5th, 1992. Oh wow, we've gone back to 1992, said Annie. Yep, said Jack. He turned the page and read, Eco-volunteers will meet Mongolian tours minibus across from the Blue Sky Hotel and Ulan... I don't know how to say that. Mongolia's capital city. Journey in the minibus to the nature reserve. Stay with a nomad family. Help park rangers with daily tasks. Collect data on animals and plants. What's a nomad family? Said Annie. Nomads are people who travel from place to place, said Jack. Usually lots of animals travel with them. Cool, said Annie. Do they... Shh, listen. The driver's talking to the others. He and Annie leaned forward to hear. Bits of conversation floated back to them. Officials report the planes landed safely. Hundreds of people greeted them. This is so exciting. I can't believe it. We're so lucky. Yes, this truly is the most exciting thing to happen in my lifetime, the driver said. You've come on a perfect day. What are we talking about? Annie asked Jack. I don't know, he said. All set, the driver shouted. He closed the door. We'll be at the park in less than 2 hours. Get ready for a miracle. What miracle? Thought Jack. The bus engine started, and the minibus began rolling down the avenue. Okay, we're on to chapter 3. As the tour bus headed out of the capital city, the driver kept talking to the other volunteers. Jack and Annie leaned forward to hear. What's he saying? Annie asked Jack. Jack shook his head. I can't hear. The bus engine's too loud. I wonder why he said this is the perfect day, said Annie. Yeah, and what miracle's supposed to happen, said Jack. Annie shrugged. I guess we'll find out sooner or later. Jack and Annie looked out the window, and the minibus drove through heavy traffic, passing tall concrete buildings. At the edge of the city, they saw gas stations, factories, and a tiny, brightly colored houses. But soon, there were no more buildings, no more power lines, no telephone poles, just open country. Let's get our binoculars, said Jack. Good idea, said Annie. She pulled their pairs of binoculars from the tote bag. She and Jack peered out the windows at the rugged open countryside. Whoa, I think I see marmots, said Jack. You do? They're so cute, said Annie. Yeah, they are, Jack murmured. The fuzzy gray marmots raised their heads. They sniffed the air as they watched the minibus rumble by. And red deer, said Annie. In the distance were deer with huge antlers. They looked just like elk, Jack said. Very similar, but a different species, said Annie. As Jack scanned the countryside, a line of horseback riders came into view. They were crossing a flat, grassy field. Nomads, Jack said. Look! There's the picture. The nomads all wore long tunics with colorful cloth belts. The women and girls wore scarves on their heads. Through his binoculars, Jack saw a baby in one of the rider's arms. He saw a huge golden eagle perched on another rider's wrist. Oh wow, said Annie. Did you know that long ago people trained golden eagles to hunt with them? Looks like they're still doing it today, said Jack. Trailing the riders were herds of sheep and goats. Then came horse-drawn carts loaded with furniture and rolled-up rugs. "Look, camels," said Annie. She pointed to camels with boxes and bundles tied to their backs. "Cool," said Jack. He opened their brochure. He found a page titled Nomad Journeys. He and Annie read. For thousands of years, Mongolians lived as nomads. Nearly half of the country still lives that way. Families travel from place to place to find fresh grass and water for their animals. They set up round huts called yurts or gurs in each new location. "Wow," said Annie. "Can you imagine us with mom and dad traveling on horseback with a bunch of animals? We'd have a great time." "Yeah, I'd like to see a giant golden eagle perched on Dad's arm," Jack said with a laugh. Soon the minibus left the main road and started bumping down a dirt path. Red dust blew into the air. The minibus passed scrubby, treeless fields until it arrived at a camp. The camp had a row of round white huts. Horses, goats, and sheep grazed nearby. Yaks and camels drank from water buckets. The driver faced his passengers. "We've arrived at the nomad camp near the reserve," he said. "Eco-volunteers will stay in these yurts. The nature reserve is within walking distance. But first, take time to get settled with your host families. Tuya will tell you where to go." Tuya looked at her clipboard. "The Roths will stay in the first ute with the Dorj family," he said. "The Johnsons will stay in the next one with the Ganbold family." The two couples pulled out their backpacks. They grabbed their tote bags and climbed down from the minibus. The driver looked at Jack and Annie. "Hurry, kids, go with your parents," he said. "No, Khan," said Tuya. "Jack and Annie are alone. But they are amazing. They—" What are you talking about?" said Khan. "Don't worry, we've been eco-volunteers before." Oh, wrong voice, hold on. "Don't worry, we've been eco-volunteers before," said Annie. "We've saved rhinos in Africa, and a llama in Peru, and a turtle in—" "Excuse me," Khan broke in. "Tuya, these children cannot stay here without an adult. They're too young, you know that. I must take them back to the city." "Please, Khan, not yet," said Tuya. "They can stay with me and my family." Khan glared at Jack and Annie. "Oh no," Jack thought. "Our mission is over before it even begun." "Just for tonight, Khan," said Tuya. "Please." Khan sighed. "All right, just for tonight," he said. "But don't let them get into any trouble, Tuya, or this will be your last day as a junior volunteer, and I'll lose my job too." "Don't worry, Khan. They won't cause trouble," said Tuya. "We promise," said Annie. "Really?" said Jack. "Wait, really?" said Jack. "I'll drive you back to the city in the morning," Khan said. "Right now the trucks have arrived at the reserve. I must go help unload them." "Can we go with you?" asked Tuya. "No, this is a job for senior rangers," said Khan. Then his voice softened. "But come soon with the others from the camp when we're ready to open the crates." "Thanks, Khan, we will," said Tuya. "What's he talking about?" Jack wondered. "Open what crates?" Tuya turned to Jack and Annie. "Come with me," she said. Annie grabbed their tote bag. She and Jack hurried off the bus. As Khan drove off, Annie turned to Tuya. "I'm sorry if we got you in any trouble," she said. "Don't worry. Khan can be gruff, but he's really very kind. My mother will be happy to meet you," said Tuya. "My family has hosted many eco-volunteers." "Oh, good," said Annie. "What are the rangers getting ready for?" Jack asked as they were heading to Tuya's home. "Yeah, what's in the crates?" said Annie. Tuya grinned at them. "You're about to see the best thing to happen in my whole life," she said, "but I won't tell you what it is now. I want it to be a surprise." "Really? The best thing to happen ever?" Annie said. "Yes," said Tuya, "the very best." Alright. Number 4, Nomad Host. The wind was blowing as Tuya hurried with Jack and Annie down the row of yurts. "We live at the end," she said. "We are camping here for the summer. When the weather changes, we will move on." "So you and your family are nomads?" "Wait, so you and your family are nomads?" said Annie. "Oh yes, my people have been nomads here for thousands of years," Tuya said proudly. "That's so cool," said Annie. Tuya led them past goats nibbling on bushes and sheep grazing in the grass. A small boy was using large scissors to trim wool off a sheep. "Whoa, That kid looks so strong. That kid looks so young, said Jack. Is he allowed to do that? Of course, he's my little brother. His name is Gon, said Tuya. When I was his age, I learned to cut wool too. We use the wool for our clothes and to cover our yurt. I help care for the sheep and goats and horses and camels and yaks. And when we camp here in the summer, I get to be a junior ranger and help at the nature reserve. Oh man, seriously? Said Jack. You're so lucky, said Annie. Tuya stopped outside the red door of the last yurt. Smoke rose from a pipe sticking out of the hole in the roof. Wait while I explain things to my mother, said Tuya. I know she'll be happy to have you stay here. She opened the red door and stepped inside the yurt. Jack pulled out their brochure. He read aloud. Yurts are made of all natural things, a wooden frame, blankets made from sheep's wool, and leather ropes. When it is time to move, it only takes a few hours to pack up a yurt. Before he could read more, the red door opened. Welcome, Jack and Annie, said a woman in a long purple robe. She had a beautiful round face. My name is Batu. I'm Tuya's mother. Please come in. Thank you, said Jack. Nice to meet ya, Batu, said Annie. I don't know if I'm saying that name right. Then she and Jack stepped inside the yurt. There were no windows, but the large round hut was glowing with candlelight. Along the walls were brightly painted cabinets, tables, beds, and low couches. A red carpet covered the floor. In the middle of the room was a black metal stove. You're welcome to sleep on our couches tonight, said Batu. She pointed to 2 low couches covered with sheep's skins. But now you must sit down and share our lunch. Thank you, said Jack and Annie. They sat with Tuya at the table near the stove. Batu served them hot, crispy bread, pale creamy cheese, and milky tea. Excuse me, I must check on Gon and the sheep, said Batu. Enjoy your meal. This is the book. Windy Night with Wild Horses. That's this one. After Batu left, Annie turned to Tuya. Are you and your mother and little brother the only ones who live in the yurt? Oh no, said Tuya. I have a father and a big brother too. They're helping Khan at the reserve now. They're senior rangers this summer, while I'm only a junior ranger. What do junior rangers do? Asked Annie. I have many jobs, said Tuya. I count the deer, marmots, and gazelles. I also look for signs of wolves. Wolves, said Jack. Are there wolves around here? Yeah, they roam the nature reserve, said Tuya. We don't have to worry about them. They don't come into our camp. What other jobs do you have? Asked Annie. My father and brother taught me how to carve wood and make saddles, said Tuya. My mother taught me how to make clothes, find plants for medicine, and forecast the weather from the moon and stars, and the clouds and the wind. Wow, that's so cool, said Annie. It is, said Jack. My father's not teaching me to play the horse-head fiddle, said Tuya. She pointed to a stringed instrument and leaned against the wall. The top of the fiddle was carved in the shape of a horse's head. Oh, and I ride horses everywhere. You have your own horse? Asked Jack. My family has many. Maybe 70, said Tuya. 70? Are you serious? Said Annie. Yeah, there are more than 3 million horses in our country, said Tuya. As many horses as people. In Mongolia, we learn to ride as soon as we start to walk. Oh, wow. Oh, wow, Annie sighed. I love that. Do you have a car? Said Jack. We did, said Tuya, but my father traded it for 5 horses. They are much more useful. I love horses, Annie said wistfully. In our country, almost everyone drives a car. Really? Said Tuya. Really, said Jack. We have lots of machines that do things for us. Right. Right, we don't know how to do most of the things you do, said Annie. Now about this surprise, said Jack. Could you give us a hint or something? Suddenly, Tuya's little brother stuck his head inside the door of the yurt. It's time, he shouted. Everyone's leaving for the reserve. Hurry! Tuya jumped up from the couch. You're about to see for yourselves, she said to Jack and Annie. Come with us. Jack and Annie followed Tuya. Batu and Gon were waiting outside the yurt. They all hurried after other families and volunteers leaving the camp. Everyone was headed down a path, bordered by feathery grasses. Jack remembered things Khan the bus driver had said. Officials report the planes landed safely. Hundreds of people greeted them. Get ready for a miracle. Jack could hardly wait to see the miracle. The crowd from the nomad camp soon arrives at the nature reserve. Beyond the arched entrance was a blue building. The minibus and a few trucks were in a parking lot. Beside the building was a bike stand. It was filled with mountain bikes. This is the field station of the reserve, Tuya said to Jack and Annie. Who owns all the bikes? Asked Jack. The station, said Tuya. Eco-volunteers use bikes to ride around the reserve. She points to a vast open plain bordered by distant hills. You don't ride your horses there? Asked Annie. Oh no, tame horses are not allowed, said Tuya. The Nature's Reserve is a home only for wild animals. Come, Tuya, said Gon. The crowd had already gathered around a fenced area near the bike stand. Jack and Annie hurried with Tuya, her mother and brother. They all squeezed into an open spot near the gate. Inside the fenced area were rangers in green uniforms. They were waiting beside a row of large wooden crates. The crates were as tall as the men who stood beside them. Hi, we're here, Tuya yelled, waving. Two rangers waved back. That's my father and big brother, Tuya told Jack and Annie. They helped build this fence. It circles 50 acres of the reserve. How big is the whole reserve? Asked Jack. Over 100,000 acres, said Tuya. Wow, that's huge, said Annie. From inside the crates came sounds of thumping and banging. What's inside the boxes? Jack asked. The Taki, Tuya said. What are the Taki? Annie asked. Before Tuya could answer, a burly ranger shouted to the crowd. It's time. They took a 30-hour trip on planes and trucks to get here. They must be confused at first. Be very quiet. Do not frighten them. The crowd grew silent. Photographers held up their cameras. Jack gripped the wire fence. The suspense was more than he could bear. He felt like aliens from another planet were about to come out of the boxes. Get ready, yelled the burly ranger. The other rangers gripped the door handles on the crates. Now, one of them shouted, and they all pulled the doors open at the same time. Slowly, a pale brown horse stepped from one of the crates onto the grass. It looked around shyly and pricked up its ears. Then another horse stepped out of a crate. Then another, and another, until more than a dozen horses had stepped out onto the grass. The horses all looked alike. They had round white bellies and spiky black manes. They were smaller than regular horses. Their heads were large, but their legs were short. The crowd held its breath. Oh, they're so beautiful, said Tuya. Gon was shaking, but Tu wiped away tears. What's the big deal? Jack wondered, leaning over the fence. He peered through his binoculars. Oh, look at the horsies! They're so cute. A couple of the horses stamped the ground. They snorted and bolted away from the crates. Then all the other horses followed, breaking into a full gallop. As the herd thundered down the long fenced area, the crowd began clapping and cheering. Photographers snapped pictures. Tuya jumped up and down, bumping into Jack. His binoculars slipped from his hands. They landed on the other side of the fence inside the horse corral. Jack decided to get them later. Right now he was too confused. Why was everyone so excited, he wondered. It's a miracle, cried Tuya. Jack looked at Annie. She shrugged. He could tell she shared his thoughts. The pale brown horses are cute, but they don't seem like a miracle. Tuya said that that Mongolia has more than 3 million horses. Why get so excited about a few more? The horses kept galloping around the big corral. The burly ranger shouted to the crowd, Please, everyone must leave now. The Taki need time to stretch their legs and get used to their new home. Onlookers stepped back from the fence. I want to stay, cried Gon. We'll see them again tomorrow, Tuya's mother said. The Taki need time alone now. As Tuya and Batu led the way back home, Tuya's father and big brother joined them. They all talked at once about the horses. Suddenly, Jack remembered something. I left my binoculars back at the fence, he said to Tuya. Run, get them, she said. Annie and I will wait for you. Jack raced back to the horse corral. By now, everyone had gone. The horses were still running around the enclosure. Jack dashed up to the gate. He pulled it open and scooped up his binoculars. Then he ran back to Annie and Tuya. You just leave that gate open? Jack, you won't believe it, said Annie. What? He said. Tuya explained everything to me, said Annie. Explain what? Said Jack, looking at Tuya. After many years, the Taki have finally returned to Mongolia, their lost homeland, said Tuya. We just saw the last wild horses on Earth. What do you mean, the last wild horses on Earth? Asked Jack. I'll tell you as we walk, said Tuya. As she started down the path, Jack and Annie hurried alongside her. For almost 200,000 years, the horses lived on the plains of Mongolia, said Tuya. We call them the Taki, which means spirit. They're not like regular horses. Why not? Said Jack. The Taki are a different breed, said Tuya. They are truly wild. They cannot be tamed. No one can ride them, but they are a big part of our history and folktales and legends. By my great-grandparents' time, they had died out. How did that happen? said Annie. Many reasons, said Tuya. The country had some very bad winters, and people hunted the Taki for food. Also, many of the Taki died from diseases and droughts. So where did these Taki come from? Asked Jack. He pointed in the direction of the horse corral. Even though the Taki here in Mongolia were wiped out, a small number survived in zoos around the world, said Tuya. And today the zoos have started to return them to their native land. Oh man, I get it, said Jack. In a few months, this group of wild horses will leave the corral and be free to roam the whole nature reserve, said Tuya. Why can't they roam the whole nature reserve now? Asked Annie. Because they've been living in zoos. They do not know how to find food and water in the wild, said Tuya. They can't protect themselves from wild animals, like wolves and brown bears, so they must stay safe in a place where they can get used to our land and climate. Makes sense, said Annie. Soon others will arrive from more zoos, said Tuya. We hope the Taki mares will give birth and raise their foals in the wild. Oh, that's wonderful, said Annie. Yes, Jack agreed. Now he completely understood why this was a great day for Tuya and her country. The homecoming of wild horses really was a miracle. By the time they arrived at Tuya's home, a full moon was rising over the distant hills. The wind was stronger. Jack was glad to step into the cozy yurt. At least a dozen nomads, grown-ups and children, had joined Tuya's family. Everyone was celebrating the return of wild horses. Women were putting food on the tables, small cakes, cheese, dumplings, bread, yogurt, and soup, and bowls of milky tea. In the rosy candlelight, Tuya's father began playing the strange-looking fiddle with a carved horse's head. The group fell silent. Even the smallest children were still. Tuya's father played the fiddle's 2 strings with his fingers and a bow. He started to sing. The man's voice was like nothing Jack had ever heard. His singing was a blend of high whistling and low, deep rumbling sounds. It was haunting and beautiful. Tuya turned to Jack and Annie. This is Mongolian throat singing, she whispered. The voice of the singer sounds like a whistling wind and the rumble of horses' hooves. Jack closed his eyes and imagined the Taki running across the open reserve, free as the wind. Suddenly, the red door opened. Khan stepped inside the yurt. Welcome, Khan, Batu called out. Khan didn't smile or nod. He crossed to Tuya's father. There's a problem with the Taki, he said. Everyone grew quiet. Tuya's father put down his instrument and stood up. What's wrong, he said. I found the gate open, said Khan. I tried to count them. I think several have escaped the corral. Everyone gasped. The gate was open, Jack thought. His heart started to pound. We must find them, cried Tuya. If they're still alive, said Khan. If they ran into the reserve, they will most likely get lost or be killed by wolves tonight. No, Khan, don't say that, cried Tuya. Tuya, Khan is right, said Tuya's father. These Taki have always lived in a zoo. They do not know how to defend themselves in the wild. It is a full moon, the wind is strong, there are wolves in the hills tonight. If they pick up the scent of the horses, they will come down into the plains. Oh, that's terrible, said Annie. Tuya and Gon burst into tears. Taki came all this way, said Tuya, sobbing. Finally they're home, and now they might die? We must go look for them now. Her father shook his head. No, Tuya, I'm sorry, we cannot look tonight. They will not come to us. Our presence would only frighten them more. They will run deeper into the darkness of the wild. Jack could hardly breathe. His thoughts were racing. The gate was open. What happened? Who did it? Daughter, don't cry, said Batu, putting her arms around Tuya. Hopefully they'll be safe tonight and return on their own in the daylight. As Batu tried to comfort Tuya and Gon, the grown-ups all talked at once. Why was the gate left open? How many were missing? At dawn, we must search. Jack pulled on Annie's sleeves. His hands were trembling. I have to tell you something, he whispered. What? Tell me, Annie said. She had tears in her eyes, too. Come outside with me, Jack whispered. Now. Why? Said Annie. Just come, hurry, said Jack. While everyone was talking, he and Annie slipped out the door. The windy night had grown cooler. Jack, what is it? Said Annie. Jack pulled Annie away from the yurt. I did it. I was the one. What are you talking about? Said Annie. I left the gate open. I must have, said Jack. When I went back to the corral, everyone was gone. I opened the gate and grabbed my binoculars, but I don't remember latching the gate when I left. I don't remember if I even closed the gate. I did it. Oh no, said Annie. Oh yes, said Jack. I messed everything up. I ruined everything. It's like the time I dropped the Pilgrim's turkey at the first Thanksgiving. Don't think about the Pilgrim's turkey now, said Annie. Those horses might die, said Jack. And then when everyone figures out I caused it, Khan will lose his job. Tuya will be blamed too. This will be the worst day of their lives instead of the best. It's a disaster. I ruined every... Jack, stop talking, said Annie. We have to think. I can't. I feel too bad, said Jack. Okay, you go ahead and feel bad. I'll think, said Annie. Give me Morgan's message. Jack reached into his pocket and pulled out the paper. He handed it to Annie. She looked at Morgan's rhyme for a long time. I think I know what to do, she said. Listen. The wind on the plain spins wheels along. Spins wheels, she said to Jack. Get it? What wheels? Said Jack. Bicycle wheels, said Annie. Spins bicycle wheels. What? Said Jack. The mountain bikes at the reserve, said Annie. Tuya said they were for eco-volunteers to ride, and guess what? We're eco-volunteers. Oh yeah, said Jack. Bike riding was one thing he could do really well. Let's go, said Annie. We'll find the horses before they get too far away. Then what? Said Jack. What's the rest of the rhyme? One step at a time. Let's hurry, said Annie. She stuffed the rhyme into one of her field vest pockets. Run! Okay, run, said Jack. Annie and Jack took off running from the nomad camp. They ran down the sandy path that led to the nature reserve. A round white moon glowed above the distance. The night was washed with silver moonlight. The air felt alive with crickets' chirps and whispery wind sounds. Jack and Annie hurried to the bike stand nearby the field station. They grabbed the two smallest mountain bikes. Whoa, said Annie. These bikes are serious. Lots heavier than our bikes at home. Yep, and the tires are bigger and tougher. Can you handle it? Said Jack. No problem, said Annie. But can we see in the dark? Jack looked beyond the corral to the huge open plain of the nature reserve. Yep, a full moon helps, said Jack. But now we need to check on the rhyme and make a plan. Annie pulled out the rhyme again. The wind on the plain spins wheels along, she read. She looked at Jack. Maybe we just need to ride where the wind blows us. We could try it, then what? Said Jack. Annie reads more of the rhyme. Call out into the night, spin air into song. Use your own words, just do your best. Sing of wild things, let the wind do the rest. Okay, that's our plan, said Annie. She put the rhyme back into her pocket. Wait, what's our plan? Said Jack. Spin air into song, make up the words, the wind does the rest, said Annie. That's a plan, said Jack. That's not a plan. It's okay. It's the only one we got, said Annie. Trust the rhyme. She started riding towards the open prairie. Jack gripped his handlebars. He started pumping the bike pedals. Jack soon caught up with Annie. The wheels of their bikes were spinning together as they bumped over rough ground. Jack felt confident on the mountain bike. He knew how to shift his weight. He knew when to bend his legs and elbows. He knew when to lean back, lean forward, and shift gears. After Jack and Annie passed the corral, the wind picked up. A strong gust seemed to shove their bikes forward. They started zooming over the vast nature reserve. The mountain bikes swished through dry grass. The thick rubber tires bounced easily over ruts and small rocks. Jack loved the feeling of the strong wind on his back. Look for the horses, cried Annie. I'm looking, said Jack. Jack peered into the distance ahead. As the wind pushed their bikes further and further across the plain, he saw three dark shapes at the base of a hill. I think I see them, Jack shouted. Me too, said Annie. Near the hill. Yes, cried Jack. The missing Taki were grazing peacefully in the silver moonlight. Stop for a minute, Jack shouted. Now's the time to make a real plan. Jack pulled on the brake levers, but his bike wouldn't stop. The wheels kept spinning. The wheel kept sweeping his bike forward. Something's wrong with my brakes. I can't stop, yelled Annie. Me neither, shouted Jack. Don't worry, the rhyme says the wind on the plain spins wheels along, Annie shouted. Right, said Jack. Just go with it, said Annie. Right, said Jack. Wow, some really interesting writing here. With the wind sweeping them along, Jack and Annie raced full speed ahead. Look, above the horses on the hillside, shouted Annie. In the silver moonlight, Jack saw 5 dark shapes on the slope of the hill. Then he heard it howl. He knew what the shapes were, but Annie said it first. Wolves, she cried. A howl came again from the hillside, then another howl, and another, until there was a chorus of howls. Oh no, the wolves are after the horses, cried Annie. But before Jack could think, everything happened at once. The 3 Takis started galloping away from the wolves. They were heading towards Jack and Annie. Their hooves pounded against the ground. The howling noises grew louder. more wolves moved down to the slope of the hill. The wolves scrambled onto the plain. They started chasing after the horses. The talkie kept running towards Jack and Annie. "Now's the time," shouted Annie. "We have to sing." "Sing what? How?" called Jack. "Just sing," cried Annie. "That's what Morgan told us to do. Sing, O wild things. Let the wind do the rest. Spin air into song." She stood up on her bike pedals and held her head high. Annie sung to the tune of the wheels on the bus. She sang as loud as she could. "The horses on the plain are running and running. The horses on the plain are running back home." It wasn't a good song, but Annie kept singing. Jack stood on his pedals. He made up the words to the same tune. "The wind on the plain is blowing and blowing. The wind on the plain is blowing them home." Together, Jack and Annie sang as loud as they could. They bellowed the words of their song over and over. Suddenly, the wind seemed to capture their voices and fill the night with their song. Strange whistling and low rumblings began to shake the earth. All the sounds blended together perfectly. And then the wind spun the song into a swirling column of air. The whirlwind swirled over the grass, growing bigger and bigger, until out of its swirl a beautiful white stallion leapt forward. "Wow!" shouted Annie. "See that?" "Yes!" Jack yelled, though he could hardly believe his eyes. The magnificent horse had a long neck and flowing mane. The horse raced towards the talkie. "Woo! Picture!" Yeah, I don't know. It's a kid's book. Could you expect? That's actually a really pretty, picture, though. The wind shifted direction, and the mountain bike swerved to the left. With the rushing wind pushing them across the plain, Jack and Annie raced after the white horse. The huge stallion halted before the oncoming talkie. He rid up on his hind legs. He neighed loudly, as if commanding the smaller horses to follow. Then the stallion started back towards the entrance of the nature reserve. The three talkie galloped after him. Jack's and Annie's bikes swerved again and sped after the horses. Jack could hear the wolves howling behind them. The beautiful white horse galloped over the silver sea of moonlit grass. The talkie galloped behind him. The mountain bikes zoomed faster. The wolves couldn't keep up. The sound of their howls grew fainter as they fell further behind. Finally, they faded away completely. Soon, only the wind and the thumping of horses' hooves could be heard. Nearing the fenced area, the white stallion and the talkie slowed to a trot. The wind fell to a whisper. Jack's and Annie's bikes coasted to a stop. From inside the corral came the sound of neighing. "Jack, let them in!" Annie shouted. Jack jumped off his bike and hurried to the gate. The gate was tied shut with a thin rope. Jack untied the knot. He threw open the gate. The three talkie trotted into the corral. They galloped off to join their herd. Jack closed the gate firmly. He tied the knot tightly. "Done!" he shouted. He nearly collapsed with relief. "Whew, good work," said Annie. Jack looked around for the mysterious white stallion. "Where is he?" he asked. "I don't know," said Annie. "He was here, then he wasn't." "Where'd he come from?" asked Jack. "The wind, maybe," said Annie. "But how did he just disappear?" said Jack. "Maybe, I don't know, the wind made him," said Annie. "And now the wind's disappeared, so..." For the first time, Jack realized the wind had stopped completely. There wasn't a breeze or even a whisper. The night was still, except for the insects chirping in the grass and soft, snuffling sounds in the horse's corral. Jack took a deep breath. "We'll figure it out later," he said. "We better get back to the yurt before Tia's family gets worried about us." "Right," said Annie. Jack and Annie returned their mountain bikes to the bike rack. Then, by the light of the moon, they started back towards the nomad camp. Jack was so tired he could barely put one foot in front of the other. When they reached the camp, everything was quiet. They headed to Tuya's home, opened the red door, and slipped inside. All the candles had nearly burnt out. Tuya's family had gone to bed. Someone was snoring. In the dim light, Jack and Annie lay down on two low couches. They covered themselves with sheepskins. "Night," said Annie. "Night," breathed Jack, closing his eyes. He heard the crackle of the fire in the stove. The wind was gone. The wolves were gone. On the first night of their new lives, all the wild horses were safely back home. "Wake up!" Jack opened his eyes. For a moment, he had no idea where he was. "Hi," said Annie, sitting on the couch near his. "I think Tuya and her family are outside." "Oh, okay," Jack sat up. "Hey, our ride last night on the plane was, I don't know, unbelievable." "Yeah, but it was all spelled out in Morgan's rhyme," said Annie. "Right, it was," said Jack. Just then Tuya's mother came into the yurt. "Ah, you're awake," Batu said, smiling. "Good morning, Jack and Annie." "Good morning," they answered. "When we woke up at dawn, we were so happy to find you here," said Batu. Tuya thought perhaps you decided to stay with the other eco-volunteers. Where did you go last night? Oh, we took a long walk by the light of the full moon, said Annie. It was a beautiful night, said Batu. Khan is here now to take you back to the city, and he brought very good news. But first you must have something to eat. Thank you, said Annie. She and Jack stood up from the low couches and sat at the table near the stove. Batu gave them bowls of tea and slabs of crusty homemade bread with butter. So what's Khan's news? Asked Jack. It is wonderful, said Batu. When the sun came up, he discovered all of the Taki were safe in the corral. He thinks he made a mistake last night when he counted them. Annie smiled at Jack. For a quick moment, he wondered if they should tell Batu that they had found the horses. But then, how could they explain their bike wheels spinning over the plain and a white horse whirling out of the wind to lead the Taki back home? Annie seemed to share his thoughts. I'm glad they were never missing, she said. Yeah, what a relief, said Jack. Took a big bite of the crunchy bread. Does anyone know who left the gate open? Asked Annie. Oh, no one is to blame, said Batu. The latch on the gate had broken. Khan discovered it when we went to check on the Taki last night. He used a rope to tie the gate shut, but then he made a mistake when he counted the horses inside the corral. Oh, Barry died. Oh, so it wasn't... Jack stopped before he said me. Annie laughed and looked at him. I'm glad no one was to blame, she said. Aren't you? Very glad, Jack said. Is the latch fixed now? He asked Batu. No, for now the rope is keeping all the Taki safe inside, said Batu. Khan will buy a new latch when he takes you to the city. Come now, he is waiting. Jack and Annie stood up from the table. Jack grabbed the tote bag. Then he and Annie followed Batu outside. It was a beautiful morning in the camp. The sunlight was bright, the air was crisp, but wasn't too windy. Tuya's little brother was using a baby bottle to feed one of the lambs. Her older brother was chopping wood. Her dad was training a golden eagle perched on his wrist. The eagle stared at Jack and Annie. Jack smiled at it. That's the same one, he whispered to Annie. I know, she said softly. Jack studied the family's large herd of horses. He saw brown horses, black horses, gray horses, and rust-colored horses, but there wasn't even one white horse. Where's Tuya? Annie asked Batu. She's waiting in the minibus with Khan, Batu said. She wanted to ride with you back to the city. Oh, good, said Jack. Thank you for everything. You are a very good host, said Annie. Batu laughed. And you are a very interesting guest, she said. Goodbye. Goodbye, said Jack and Annie together. Then they hurried down the row of yurts to the minibus. All aboard, said Khan. Thanks, said Jack. When they climbed into the bus, they saw Tuya in the back. They moved to the last seat and sat next to her. I'm glad you're riding with us, said Annie. Me too, said Tuya. Khan started the loud engine. The minibus began bouncing over the dirt road. What happened to you last night? Tuya asked. We went back into the nature reserve, said Annie. What did you do there? Said Tuya. Oh, we just... Jack paused. Annie poked him. She nodded. Jack could tell she wanted them to tell Tuya what really happened. Okay, here's the true story, he said. We borrowed 2 mountain bikes, and we rode off in search of the missing Taki, said Annie. Tuya's eyes grew huge. The Khan told us today they were never missing, she said. Well, actually they were, said Annie. We saw 3 of them grazing in the plain. No, breathed Tuya. Yes, said Jack, and we saw wolves come down from the hills, said Annie. No, said Tuya. She covered her mouth with her hand. Yes, said Jack. We started singing a magic song. The wind took over our song, and then... He paused. Tuya's eyes were wide with wonder. Then what? She whispered. The wind whistled and roared and spun into a whirlwind, said Jack. And then out of the wind a mysterious white horse appeared, said Annie. He was beautiful. He had a really long mane. No, said Tuya. Yes, said Jack and Annie. Ah, said Tuya. She clapped her hands. It's true, said Annie. The horses led the Taki across the plain. They outran the wolves. They galloped back to the corral, said Jack, and we shut them inside. What happened to the mystery horse? Tuya asked. He disappeared, said Annie. Vanished. We don't know where he came from, or where he went, said Jack. Oh, maybe he was the wind horse, Tuya said in a hushed voice. The wind horse? Asked Jack. In old stories, the wind horse is a sacred animal, said Tuya. He has the strength and courage of a horse, and the speed of the wind. That sounds like him, said Annie. He saved the Taki. Tuya nodded. When he appears, he is a sign of good fortune. I know now the Taki will have a great future here. They will live long lives in their natural home. And zoos will send more of them back here to Mongolia? Annie asked. Oh yes, said Tuya. We thank the zoos for keeping them safe all these years, for helping us bring them home. I have a question, said Jack. Here, in the Taki's natural home, wolves can prey on them. So is it really better for them to leave the safety of the zoos? Yes, it is, said Tuya. Last night my father explained it to me. He said that the price for living a natural life in the wild could be danger. But on the Mongolian plain, the Taki can run as freely as they want. They can find fresh water and flowing streams. They can rest in the shade of the hilltop forest. Oh yeah, that does sound like a better life, said Jack. My father said sometimes freedom is more important than total safety, said Tuya. I agree with that, said Annie. I just wish there weren't any wolves in the reserve. Yes, but my father says the wolves are important to the natural order, said Tuya. They help keep everything in balance. Good point, said Jack. They're part of an ecology, I guess, said Annie. The ecosystem. Jack, Annie, and Tuya looked out the window at the open countryside as they rode back towards the city. They saw red deer on the rolling grasslands and golden eagles overhead. At the edge of the city, they passed factories and tiny, colorful homes. They rode through the traffic until they came to the park from the Blue Sky Hotel. Across from the Blue Sky Hotel. Han stopped at the same corner of the park. He turned off the engine. Jack and Annie followed Tuya to the front of the bus. May I leave you here at the hotel? Khan asked. Yes, that's perfect, said Jack. We'll be meeting up with our parents soon, said Annie. Thanks, Khan. Thanks for everything, said Jack. Good luck, kid, said Khan. I'll be right back, Tuya said to Khan. Then she climbed off the bus with Jack and Annie. Where do you go now? She asked them. Back to Frog Creek, Pennsylvania, said Jack. How will you get there? Tuya asked. Well, Annie paused and smiled. We'll fly back home on the wind. Cool, said Tuya. The three of them then laughed. Good luck to you, said Tuya. Same to you, said Jack. Say goodbye to the Taki for us, said Annie. Thank you for helping them, Tuya said softly. Tears filled her eyes. You were a very good guest. You made my imagination run wild. I'll miss you. We'll miss you too, said Annie. Tuya smiled and climbed back into the minibus. Annie gave a last wave, then Khan closed the door and the bus took off. Jack and Annie waited for the minibus to round the corner. Then they hurried down the stone path and across the grass to the treehouse. Annie grabbed the rope ladder and started climbing. Jack followed her up into the treehouse. Annie picked up the Pennsylvania book and found the picture of the Frog Creek woods. She pointed to it and said, We wish we could go there. The wind started to blow. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster. Then everything was still. Absolutely still. The noon sunshine was bright. The windy air was warm. We're home, said Jack. He and Annie were wearing their regular clothes again. That was a great trip, said Annie. It was, said Jack, except for the part where I thought I ruined everything. I know, but you took responsibility, said Annie, and you fixed the problem. With your help, said Jack, and lots of help from Morgan, mountain bikes, and the wind horse. We better hurry if you want to go on that bike ride with Mom, said Annie. Right, said Jack. The two of them climbed down the rope ladder. They walked quickly through the Frog Creek woods. Riding with Mom to the park will be different from riding over the Mongolian plains, said Jack. Yeah, but it'll still be fun, said Annie. No wolves for one thing, said Jack. Hey, Annie said with a smile. If I'm ever put in a zoo, would you be sure to return me to my natural home? Jack laughed. Sure, I'll get you back to our birds and flowers and trees. Our squirrels, our bugs, our bees, said Annie. Our earth, our sky, our weather. No problem, said Jack. I'll put you in a big wooden crate and ship you back to the Frog Creek. I'd do the same for you, said Annie. Soon they came to the edge of the woods. They climbed onto their bikes. Ready, said Jack. Ready for anything, said Annie. They both started to pedal. Their bike wheels started to spin. Jack and Annie rode out of the woods and down the street towards home. Ta-da! There's the end. And there's a little, like, learning section here at the end. How long is this? Okay, it's just one page. We'll read this too. A note from the author. For tens of thousands of years, the Taki roamed the plains of Central Asia, native to Mongolia. The Taki, also known as... I'm not gonna try to pronounce that, is the only truly wild horse on Earth. Different from modern horses, the Taki cannot be domesticated or tamed. By the 1960s, due to hunting, harsh winters, and habitat loss, these special horses had vanished from their natural environment. The only known surviving Taki were held in various zoos around the world. In the early 1990s, zookeepers worked with scientists and conservationists to start returning the Taki to their natural country. Jack and Annie visited Mongolia in June 1992, on the historic day when the first small group of Taki arrived in the Hustai National Park. Thanks to the ongoing conservation efforts, today more than 400 Taki live in the Hustai Reserve, and hundreds more roam protected reserves throughout Central Asia. I don't think there's anything else. I think this is just like advertising other books. Yeah. Oh, look, there's a picture of the author with her dog. Okay. I know, they're pronounced similar to the snack. Here's the thing. Nobody's too old for bedtime stories. If you want to read bedtime stories or listen to them, there's nothing wrong with that. It's a totally normal thing. I did like this book a lot, though. I think it's very nice. I think it's a good blend of, like, magic stuff, but also, like, actual historic events. And it does teach you about, like, some things. I do like that. I think that's why I liked this book series so much when I was younger. Okay, though. What do we think? What do we think, guys? Do we like Magic Treehouse book? Because if so, then I'll definitely try to get more of these at some point. I personally think they're really nice. I very much enjoyed it. I do have another one. I also have this one that we'll probably read next. I will say we need to figure out when we're gonna do book club stuff, right? Also, if you guys have any suggestions for book series to read, let me know, because I'm trying to find some good series to read with you guys. What we'll probably do is, we'll save this book for next week, probably. Or actually, we might do this one in a couple days, and then we'll start. And then we'll start reading Brave Lands for next week's book club, because I didn't realize it was gonna take like an hour to read that one. So these are about an hour long. We can do this one for next book club, which will probably be in a couple days. And then we'll do a whole book club where we start reading this. And if we don't finish this, I'll renew the book for the week after. But yeah, I like this book. It's very nice. I think that'll be it for today. We're gonna read this book probably in the next couple days. I'm gonna figure out a schedule so I can give you guys proper book club times. I'm guessing you guys would probably prefer the weekends, so more people can attend. Though I don't think it matters too much, because you can also just like watch it afterwards. You know what could also be fun if I can find them at my library? The Goosebumps series. I really liked those books when I was younger too. I'm gonna turn off my my ring light because it's really bright. I do like dragons, yes. Goosebumps I think would be really fun to read. But my phone is gonna die, so we're gonna lose Barry. But I think that's gonna be it for book club today. Thank you guys for hanging out with me though. We'll have to do this more. I actually had a lot of fun with this. We are going to read this one in a couple days. So I'll see you guys whenever we do this. I might read the FNAF series. I have actually the very first book. I own the very first book. Alright though. I'll see you guys. Let me estimate a day. I'm gonna say maybe Sunday. Maybe on the 8th. So like 2 days from now is when we'll read this one. This book. Alright though. Bye, chat.